What is going on, guys? Previously came back a brand new video, and today we're going to be discussing some massive news from the world of Formula 1, and that is we're going to have some massive rule changes. These are going to include refueling, wider tyres, free tyre choice, different aerodynamics, more area of freedom, and possibly even customer cars. There's so many changes to look forward to for 2016 and 2017. It's going to be a really exciting time for Formula 1, and probably the biggest change I'd say since 2009, where of course the cars rapidly changed to what they are now. And again, of course, 2011 we moved to slick tyres, 2014, of course, the implementation of the V6 engines. So if you look through the history of Formula 1, there's always been big changes, and recently in the last decade we've had a lot, and nothing really stands still in Formula 1, that's proven. Just look at the last few winners, we've had Ferrari dominating the early part of the century, then of course we had the unpredictable period with Renault, McLaren, Ferrari all kind of being up there. We had the rise of Red Bull and their it's kind of domination. I didn't exactly dominate the way Mercedes have recently, but they were certainly winning each championship, although very close of course with the likes of Ferrari and McLaren. And then of course we're seeing the rise of Mercedes, of course, with this new engine formula coming in for 2014. They've really made the best job of that, and it'll be interesting to see who can make the best job for 2017 onwards. Will we see a massive uphaul of the running order? We probably will, to be honest. I mean, there's no change to the engine formula. They're staying, they're going to keep that the same. They're going to stick with the current V6 turbo engines, with the idea of a dual power unit formula having been rejected, which I think is probably, good news. I mean, there was talks of having some cars running V8s, some cars running V6s, and having kind of a bit of a competition with that. That'll be okay, but in my opinion, I really do prefer it when teams are ahead because of their aerodynamics, not because of their engines. Sadly, no budget cap seems to have been announced, which is slightly disappointing. But we have seemed to got more aero freedom, which is really, really cool, making the cars more aggressive. That's what they said anyway. Aerodynamic tweaks to the cars to make them perform better and look more aggressive. It is hoped the changes will make the cars between 5 and 6 seconds per lap faster. So that's really, really good to hear if you guys, really, really like the cars to be fast like they were in the early 2000s. I'm predicting we will see records smashed, once they kind of get fully up to scratch. And of course, refueling coming in is going to massively change up the order, not just on the Sunday but on the Saturday. If you guys remember back, or if you didn't watch it, if you didn't watch Formula 1 before 2010, there was a lot of different pole sitters, different fuel loads kind of being published. That was a very, very exciting time. In qualifying, you'd have some cars running a bit lighter than others, allowing them to get an advantage. But then come the race, we found out who was running what fuel, and sometimes some people would be just doing a one stop, so very heavily fueled. Sometimes we'll get a 2 or 3 stop, and it was very, very interesting. A bit like now with you have new tyres on, but of course it's kind of a reverse effect, because if you you stay out, then of course you're running very low fuel, you can be very aggressive and get quicker lap times. So I think we'll see the return of the overcut, hopefully more passing on track as well. I mean, I'm not sure that we're going to get, the better racing, from 2017 onwards in terms of wheel-to-wheel stuff, because if you look at the early 2010s, we were getting some of the best on-track battles. 2011, 2012 and 2013, even 2014, in my opinion, we got some, amazing battles, plenty of overtaking. With this 2017, with wider tyres and possible wider, rear wings, will we see more overtaking? I hope so, but I kind of doubt it. And people wanted to go back to the 90s, but we didn't get that much overtaking in the 90s. And it depends what you want, because there's a difference between good racing and overtaking. Overtaking is just cars passing over the cars, but if you have a really, really good battle, I'd much rather have 5 good battles than 15 overtakes, all down to DRS and who has the best engine. I think it'd be really, really great to see if the return of racing, I think, because we saw that in kind of 2011, 2012, 2013, in my opinion. But this kind of V6 engines kind of took it away from me. I mean, it's down to your own personal preference. Some people look back on the early 2000s with great fondness. Some people absolutely hate the early 2000s, think it's just dominated. Some people love the 2010s, I absolutely do. Some people actually, hate it. Some people like the way it is now, so a lot of people don't know, and I think this is a good response to the FIA. It shows that they're listening, and they really need to do something, because they're losing a lot of viewers. You look at the TV figures, many people suggesting that Hamilton winning is going to bring more audience in. People thinking Vettel's domination has stopped. More people are going to be watching. It's the opposite. It's not just about who's winning; it's the manner they win as well. The way Vettel Dominated is an expression probably a bit overused for his kind of period. If you look at what Hamilton did last year, what Mercedes have done over the past couple of years, that's domination. What Red Bull did wasn't completely dominant in my opinion. They came very close to losing it in 2010 and 2012, and 2011 and 2013 weren't quite the walkovers. 2013 was, and I guess 2011 was a decent season, I think, with really good racing in it, and I think that's what was crucial, of course, with the introduction of slick tyres. Talking of tyres, we should get 18-inch tyres now, which I'm not really surprised about. Much wider tyres, of course longer tyres as well. 18-20-inch rims, of course, tested by Lotus, I believe, earlier on in the season, or was that probably last season now, a long time ago. That's been in the pipeline for a while now, and I think that's not too much surprise. But this refueling thing, coming from basically nowhere, it's a massive surprise. Of course, there's pros and cons to refueling. It's down to your own opinion. It could make less overtaking, less racing, or it could have a much more positive effect, putting less dependency on the tyres. Of course, there's also a free tyre choice as well coming in for 2016. That should really shake up the order. Be very interesting. Well, it's not going to shake up the order, I don't think, too much, but it could offer surprise results. Some of the lower down teams, Force India, even Manor perhaps, taking a risk, could actually really pay off. It'll go, I think, well with this new refueling rule as well coming in. But yeah, very excited for 2016 with these free tyre choice rule, and for 2017 for refueling aerodynamics tweaks. I'm really looking forward to see what the cars look like. We've seen a few concepts from Ferrari and Red Bull. I don't think they're going to look too much like that, although I really would like it if they did look like the Ferraris. They're a bit too futuristic, I don't know. They really do look nice, and we'll have to see what's going to be happening. Are they going to be looking a bit more like the kind of 2008 kind of pre-2008 cars, or are they going to look not too dissimilar to what they do now? Are they going to look more like the 80s and 90s cars? Only time will tell. I think the Formula 1 needs to reinvent itself in the sense that it doesn't need to copy what it's done before. It needs to do something new. That's what it's good at, and I think we can't really say, I'd like it to be like this era, I'd like it to be like this year, because, Formula 1's, the great thing is it changes so much, and I think that's what we've got to all remember. We go through bad periods, we go through good periods, we just gotta, just look forward to the coming changes. Anyway, now we've got a few of your guys' opinions, and we'll start off with at CoolSinan99. He says, free tyre choice, awesome, refueling, dangerous, but would make things more unpredictable. That's very true, of course. Got to remember the dangerous element as well. I believe that's why they stopped it as well. I can't remember, because of course it was quite a few years ago, but I believe it was down to not getting the rating they wanted, and also just because of course it caused quite a lot of fires as well. I think especially more towards 2008, 2009. People seem to be making a lot more mistakes, maybe as they were trying to shave as much time off the pit stops as well. Wider tyres, a more aggressive look, which is great, he says. And then he says, Audi in F1 please. And then at JSPF1_10 says, I want them to have their own team and not team up with the sore losers Red Bull, though. A very valid point. I mean, a lot of people think Red Bull are sore losers. I don't think they are. They can't put money into a black hole. If they're doing badly, they're a business. They don't have any moral obligation to stay in the sport just because everyone else did when they were winning. They have every right to pull out if they want, and I wouldn't take their threats too seriously. I mean, people are saying you should, but in my opinion, they're going to stick it out, especially with these new rules. I think, unless they get bought by Audi, I think Red Bull are going to stick it out. And it will be really nice to see other manufacturers coming in for 2017. Now they know the new rules, although I'm not sure it is going to attract them anymore, but I guess any more than it is now. But I guess a new rule change is a good time to enter, I believe. Of course, there's not too much change to the engines. I guess it's just, if a manufacturer thinks they can do a better job than everyone else, then, they'll join, and we could see Audi taking over Red Bull. We'll have to see. And he also says, wish they would bring back the large and wide rear wings like before 09. I also hope the dirty air effect will be reduced with the help of ground effect and less complex aero. Yeah, that'll be really good to see. I think the ground effect, didn't really play as much a part in 2010 to kind of, 2014, or 2011 to 2014. I think they had that really good balance. We saw a lot of overtaking. We didn't see cars getting stuck behind others for, large amounts of time, like we kind of did in 2010, 2009, 2008. We didn't really see that much battling on track. just because, you know, cars couldn't get, you know, too close together. So, you know, but certainly for 2015, the front wings are probably a bit too complex, like he mentioned, which, you know, is not enabling as much overtaking as we saw, you know, from the 2014 wings. Ironically, that's the thing we all weren't changing, but that's probably what's hasn't made 2015 quite as good as 2014, certainly so far. Anyway, now we'll move on to the next set of comments then from @JSPF1_10, and he says, refueling will cause a lot of fires like back in the days. It should make for some action, which is a very valid point, of course, and I'm sure, of course, he recognises that there's a bit of danger to that as well. But, you know, I think make for some more action. I'm not too sure about this kind of refueling will, you know, attribute to more action. I guess so, with, you know, heavier fueled cars, of course, being caught by the lighter fuel cars, and of course, as I mentioned before, the overcut should return. It also says like qualifying laps could be with very little fuel to make the car faster with a full tank of fuel. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you know, we could get a few unpredictable pole positions like we saw with Toyota, of course, in 2009. I believe it was in Bahrain, and, you know, we could see other cars. Maybe, like, you know, if the Williams wants to kind of, you know, go a bit lower on fuel, of course they're not quite as good on their tyres, so they might want to do a shorter first stint. You know, they go into qualifying with, you know, a smaller fuel load than everyone else, then, you know, they could steal a pole position. I mean, we're not going to see lap records in terms of qualifying records, of course, with, you know, higher fuels now, I don't believe. But certainly for the race, you know, as we get towards the end of the race with, you know, the non-light fuel and faster tyres, we could definitely see some lap records being broken. And of course he says which would make for different pole sitters each week. I'm not sure if it will make for different pole sitters each week. You know, I mean, we still might get, you know, similar ones, but it's still a very valid point, I think, that you know, could make qualifying a bit more unpredictable, which would be very, very great to see, because qualifying may be getting a bit stale recently, you know, with the same cars being up there and kind of being a bit 2x2, of course, in Spain. Yep, it would make F1 less dominating, but different race winners, poles each race with laps times beaten. I'd also like to see if the engines. I'd also like it if the engines were uncovered like in the 80s, 90s, and also bigger wings like that then too. Yeah, very, very valid point. I know a lot of people love the 1990s F1 cars, and many people want to see them replicated, so possibly parts of it being replicated, but like I mentioned before, I don't think it's good that, you know, for them just to copy a whole kind of concept that they've already used. Just because it worked that time doesn't mean it's going to work this time. There's not one quick fix, and I think the FIA have made a brilliant start so far. It'd be great to see if they could just continue to, you know, talk, and just for the strategy group just to continue to agree on things, which is really, really great to see. They may also mentioned about customer cars. Not a fan of customer cars, definitely. You know, I definitely agree with Force India. I don't think they're necessary at the moment. I mean, you know, it would just kind of ruin the old independent feel, and kind of the underdog results maybe not, you know, quite as you know, likely. But of course, at the moment, they're near impossible now, of course, with these engines. But, you know, hopefully these new rules will spice up the show, just like they're hoping it's going to do. They're not too artificial as well, which is good, you know, a bit like DRS. So refueling's a much more natural thing. And, yeah, just really hoping for, you know, these changes to work. Really looking forward to next season already, of course, Haas coming in, and, of course, this new free tyre choice, and especially looking forward to 2017, which will hopefully see the return, maybe of some, you know, manufacturers returning, and possibly, you know, Toyota perhaps would be brilliant in my opinion, and also maybe some new independent teams as well, which would be fantastic to see. You know, much like Haas, and that would be really nice to see. So I'm really looking forward to the next 2 seasons in F1. Of course, we've still got the rest of 2015 to enjoy. Of course, it's only Spain, but it's nice to see they're getting these changes made now. It's a pretty good window for the teams to start working on them. I'm sure that, you know, from today that have just set up, you know, certain people put them on task for 2017 already, because it's a fantastic opportunity for Mercedes rivals. I'm definitely targeting, I think, Red Bull and Renault to, you know, put a lot of work into this. I think that's where they went wrong before. They focused too much on their success, which, you know, was a right decision at the time, because they had world championships there for the taking. They took them, but, you know, now they're kind of being punished for that, and, you know, so are Renault. But yeah, can't wait then for the next 2 seasons. Thank you for those 2 comments from Coulson and Jay and Jordan. Be sure to leave your guys' thoughts down in the comment section below. See you guys next time. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more F1 content. See you guys next time. Goodbye.